I was checking a message on my phone when I saw it. A text from Samantha, my ex-wife, asking for $5,000 for summer camp. Not for our kids, Emma and Noah. For her new husband Robert's children from his previous marriage. The audacity left me speechless. 3 years ago, she walked out on me and our babies, claiming she needed to find real love. Now this, I stared at the phone, memories of betrayal washing over me like acid rain. If you're watching this and have ever dealt with an ex who took advantage of you, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Give this video a like and subscribe if you want to see how I finally stood up for myself and my children. I met Samantha during my sophomore year at University of Washington. She was studying psychology and I was pursuing computer science. We bumped into each other at the campus coffee shop, both reaching for the same blueberry muffin. She laughed, her green eyes crinkling at the corners, and suggested we split it. That simple interaction blossomed into study dates, then real dates, and within 2 years we were inseparable. After graduation, I landed an entry-level position at a growing tech company in Seattle. Samantha was working as an assistant counselor at a local high school. We were young in love and felt ready to take on the world together. Our wedding was small but beautiful, just close friends and family at a lakeside venue. I remember thinking that day that I was the luckiest man alive. We rented a small apartment at first, saving aggressively for a down payment on a house. We both worked hard, sometimes taking on extra hours or side gigs to build our nest egg faster. Within 3 years, we had saved enough for a modest 3-bedroom home in a nice suburban neighborhood with good schools. Life seemed perfect when Emma came along. I still remember the overwhelming love I felt holding her tiny body against my chest that first night in the hospital. Samantha was a natural mother, at least in those early days. She took 6 months of maternity leave, and we settled into a rhythm as new parents. When Emma was 2, Noah joined our family. He was a colicky baby who rarely slept through the night, and the strain began to show. I would come home from long days at the office to find Samantha exhausted and irritable. I tried to take the kids on weekends to give her a break handling diaper changes and bottle feedings while she slept in or went shopping with her friends. I started noticing subtle changes in her behavior around the time Noah turned 1. She began spending more time on her phone, guarding it carefully. She joined a gym and suddenly had evening classes 3 times a week. Her appearance changed too, with new clothes and a different hairstyle. When I asked about these changes, she would dismiss my questions with vague answers about needing time for herself or wanting to feel good again. The late nights out became more frequent. Girls' nights, book club meetings, work functions. I was often left juggling both kids and my increasingly demanding job. I tried to talk to her about it, suggesting we find more balance, but these conversations usually ended with her accusing me of trying to control her or not understanding how monotonous her life had become. The truth revealed itself on a random Tuesday. I was working from home because Emma had a slight fever, and Samantha had gone to what she claimed was a professional development workshop. Her iPad chimed with a message while I was searching for Emma's favorite cartoon. A text preview from someone named Robert appeared. "Last night was amazing. I cannot wait to hold you again." My stomach dropped. I had suspected something was wrong, but seeing confirmation was like being punched in the gut. I waited until the kids were asleep that night to confront her. She denied it at first, claiming Robert was a colleague, but when I asked to see their message history, her defenses crumbled. Yes, she was having an affair. Robert made her feel alive, understood, desired. I had become too absorbed in work and the kids. We had grown apart. All the classic excuses that could never justify betraying our family, our vows. I suggested marriage counseling, willing to work through this for our children. She reluctantly agreed, but after 3 sessions it became clear her heart was not in it. She had already mentally checked out of our marriage. The counselor noticed it too, gently suggesting that perhaps we needed to consider what a respectful separation might look like. For weeks we lived in a painful limbo. I slept in the guest room while we tried to figure out next steps. I held on to hope that she would realize what she was throwing away, that the grass was not actually greener on the other side. Instead, she grew more distant and resentful, blaming me for trapping her in a life she had not signed up for. The day she packed her bags was one I will never forget. Emma, 4 years old and too perceptive for her age, watched with confused eyes as her mother filled suitcases with clothes. "Where are you going, Mommy?" she asked in her small voice. Noah, barely 2, toddled around, oblivious to the family fracture occurring before his eyes. "Mommy is going to live somewhere else for a while," Samantha said, avoiding eye contact with our daughter. "Can I come?" Emma asked, bottom lip trembling. Samantha knelt down, finally looking at our child. "Not right now, sweetie. But I will see you soon, I promise." The coldness in her goodbye to me still chills me when I think about it. I deserve to be happy, Jeremy. The kids will understand when they are older. And just like that, she walked out of our home, leaving me alone with 2 heartbroken children and a future I had never imagined for myself. The first few weeks after Samantha left were a blur of sleepless nights, tearful questions from Emma, and the logistical nightmare of suddenly becoming a single parent to 2 young children. I took emergency family leave from work, using up almost all my saved vacation days to buy time to figure out a new normal. Emma would ask daily when Mommy was coming home. How do you explain to a 4-year-old that her mother chose another man over her family? Noah, too young to understand what was happening, became clingy and fussy, sensing the disruption in his world. He would wake up multiple times each night crying, and only calm down when I held him. I had to rearrange my entire life. My job in software development had always been demanding, with occasional late nights and weekend work sessions. That was no longer sustainable. I met with my manager, explaining my situation and requesting a more flexible schedule. Thankfully, she was understanding and allowed me to work from home 2 days a week and stick to strict hours the other days. Finding reliable childcare was my next challenge. I interviewed countless nannies and visited numerous daycare centers before finding Mrs. Rodriguez, a kind grandmother who had run a small and-home daycare for 20 years. She agreed to take both children, even accommodating my sometimes unpredictable schedule. The emotional toll was perhaps the hardest part. I felt like a failure. Despite knowing intellectually that Samantha was the one who broke our vows, I still questioned what I could have done differently. Should I have noticed the signs earlier, been more attentive, insisted on more date nights? The what-ifs kept me awake long after the children had fallen asleep. Meanwhile, Emma started having problems at her preschool. Her teacher called to report that she had become withdrawn and sometimes aggressive with other children, behaviors she had never exhibited before. During one heart-wrenching incident, she hit a classmate who was talking about an upcoming mother-daughter tea party. When the teacher asked why, Emma burst into tears, saying, "My mommy does not want me anymore." Noah developed separation anxiety, screaming desperately whenever I tried to leave him at daycare, or even with my parents. He would cling to my legs, his little face red with tears, begging me not to go. It took everything in me not to break down in those moments. I found a child psychologist, Dr. Bennett, who specialized in helping children through divorce and abandonment. The weekly sessions seemed to help Emma gradually process her feelings. Noah was too young for traditional therapy, but Dr. Bennett provided guidance on how to maintain routines and security for him. The financial strain was another unexpected challenge. Our household income had been cut in half, but the mortgage and childcare costs remained the same. Samantha had agreed to pay child support, but the amount was minimal compared to the actual costs of raising 2 children, and even that trickled in irregularly. My parents were my saving grace during this time. They lived about 3 hours away, but after seeing me struggling, they decided to rent out their house and move closer temporarily. My mother would come over early mornings to get the kids ready when I had early meetings, and my father often handled bedtime stories when I needed to catch up on work. My best friend from college, Michael, also stepped up in ways I could never repay. A single guy with no kids of his own, he somehow knew exactly when I needed a break. He would show up with pizza and offer to watch the kids while I took a shower or just sat alone for an hour. Sometimes he would take Emma to the park so I could focus on Noah's needs or tackle the ever-growing pile of laundry. I also found unexpected support in an online group for single fathers. Connecting with other men navigating similar challenges provided both practical advice and emotional comfort. It was through this group that I learned about a local single parents support network that offered everything from legal advice to playdates. Slowly, we established new routines. Sunday morning pancakes became our special tradition. Emma helped me mix the batter while Noah sat in his high chair gleefully making a mess with banana slices. We started Friday movie nights, building a pillow fort in the living room and watching animated films with popcorn and hot chocolate. Little by little, we were learning to be a family of 3 instead of 4. Samantha would visit occasionally, usually for an hour or 2 on Sunday afternoons. These visits were painful for everyone. Emma would be clingy and emotional for days after, while Samantha seemed increasingly uncomfortable with the maternal role she had abandoned. The visits became less frequent as months passed. 6 months after she left, I received a text from Samantha asking to meet for coffee without the kids. She had news she wanted to share in person. I steeled myself for whatever was coming, arranging for my mother to watch Emma and Noah during the meeting. She was already waiting when I arrived at the cafe, nervously twisting her wedding ring. No, not her wedding ring from our marriage, a new one. A large diamond that made our modest band look like costume jewelry in comparison. Robert and I got married last weekend, she announced without preamble. It was a small ceremony in Hawaii. I thought you should know. I sat there absorbing this information. She had not even waited for our divorce to be finalized before marrying the man she had left us for. The betrayal felt fresh all over again, but I forced myself to remain calm. I hope you will be happy was all I could manage to say. The news of Samantha's marriage to Robert came as a shock, but what I learned in the following months was even more unsettling. Through mutual friends and social media posts that Samantha had forgotten to hide from me, I discovered that Robert was a divorced father of 2 children, Tyler and Jessica, aged 10 and 8. What stunned me was the speed with which Samantha had integrated herself into their family life. There were photos of elaborate birthday parties for Robert's children, family vacations to Disney World, and matching Christmas pajamas, all posted within the first year of their relationship. The same woman who had complained that family life was suffocating her was now playing devoted stepmother to another man's children. I tried not to let the bitterness consume me, focusing instead on giving Emma and Noah the stability they desperately needed. But I could not help noticing the stark contrast in how Samantha approached her visits with our children. She would often cancel at the last minute, claiming work commitments, or that one of Robert's kids had an important event. When she did visit, she rarely stayed more than an hour and seemed distracted and eager to leave. Our divorce was finalized a year after she left. The custody arrangement gave me primary physical custody, with Samantha having visitation rights every other weekend and 1 evening per week. The court ordered her to pay $800 monthly in child support, a figure that barely covered the increased childcare costs I now faced. Even this modest financial obligation seemed too much for her. The payments would come late or sometimes not at all. When I would gently remind her about missing payments, she would become defensive, claiming financial hardships, or simply promising to catch up soon. I kept meticulous records of every payment and every missed visit, though I never planned to use them. I just wanted to move forward peacefully for the sake of our children. I learned from Emma, after one of her weekend visits with her mother, that Samantha and Robert had moved into a large new house in an expensive neighborhood. Social media confirmed this, with Samantha posting pictures of their spacious kitchen with granite countertops and a backyard complete with an in-ground pool. Meanwhile, I was picking up extra consulting work on weekends when the kids were with my parents, just to maintain our modest lifestyle and start rebuilding the savings Samantha had depleted when she left. Things continued in this strained but manageable pattern until that fateful text message that started this whole story. It was a Tuesday morning when my phone pinged with a message from Samantha. I was preparing the kids' breakfast before school and daycare, slicing bananas for Noah's cereal, while Emma chatted about her upcoming field trip. The message read, "Jeremy, Tyler, and Jessica have been accepted to Canyon Creek Summer Camp for 6 weeks this summer. It's an amazing opportunity for them to learn outdoor skills and make new friends. The tuition is $5,000 each, and Robert and I are hoping you could contribute to Tyler's camp fees. We are covering Jessica's completely, and it would be a nice gesture from you as part of our blended family." I nearly dropped my phone in shock. Was she seriously asking me to pay for her new stepson's summer camp, a child I had never even met? The audacity was breathtaking. I waited until after dropping the kids off to respond, not wanting my anger to affect them. I wrote back a simple, polite refusal. "I am sorry, but I cannot contribute to Tyler's camp fees. I am focusing my financial resources on Emma and Noah's needs and future." Her response came almost immediately. "I thought you would be more understanding. We are all family now. You make significantly more money than Robert does, and it would not hurt you to help out. Emma and Noah love their step-siblings." This last claim was particularly galling, as Emma and Noah had only met Tyler and Jessica a handful of times, always in brief, awkward encounters during drop-offs or pickups. There was certainly no meaningful sibling relationship established. I did not respond further, hoping the matter was closed. It was not. That evening, my phone rang repeatedly, with calls from Samantha that I declined, not wanting to have this conversation while the kids were awake. After their bedtime, I listened to her voicemail. Her tone had escalated from requesting to demanding. "This is ridiculous, Jeremy. You are being selfish. Robert has been laid off from his management position and things are tight right now. The kids are really counting on this camp experience. I will pick up Emma and Noah this weekend, and we can discuss this face to face like adults." I had no desire for a confrontation, especially not in front of our children. I texted back that I remained firm in my decision, but was happy to discuss any matters related to Emma and Noah's well-being. The situation exploded 3 days later when Samantha and Robert showed up unannounced at my front door on a Thursday evening. Emma was excited to see her mother outside of the regular visitation schedule, running to hug her, while Noah hid behind my legs, still shy around the woman who had become essentially a stranger to him. "Can we talk?" Samantha asked, gesturing toward the kitchen away from little ears. I asked Emma to take her brother upstairs to play promising popsicles when they came back down. Once they were out of earshot, Samantha launched into her pitch with Robert standing beside her with a stern expression. "You need to reconsider, Jeremy," Samantha began. "All 4 children should be treated equally. It's not fair that Emma and Noah get everything they need while Tyler and Jessica miss out on opportunities." I reminded her gently that I was not responsible for providing for Robert's children and that my financial focus had to be on our shared children. I also pointed out that she was already behind on child support payments by nearly $3,000 at that point. Robert stepped forward, then his face flushing with anger. "You think you're so much better than us, do not you, with your fancy tech job and your perfect dad routine? Do you know how hard it is to support 4 people on 1 income?" I pointed out that their financial situation was not my responsibility, and that if money was tight, perhaps they should reconsider sending the kids to such an expensive camp. The conversation deteriorated from there, with voices rising despite my attempts to keep things civil. Samantha accused me of being vindictive, of punishing her for finding happiness. Robert made thinly veiled threats about knowing people at my company and how careers could be damaged by rumors. The worst moment came when Emma appeared at the bottom of the stairs, frightened by the raised voices. She saw her mother and Robert facing off against me and burst into tears. "Why is everyone fighting?" she sobbed, her small shoulders shaking. Samantha immediately softened her tone, kneeling to reassure Emma, but the damage was done. As I comforted my daughter, Samantha and Robert exchanged glances and prepared to leave. At the door, Samantha delivered her parting shot. "If you will not help us voluntarily, maybe we need to revisit our custody arrangement. A judge might be interested to know how uncooperative you are being with co-parenting." With that threat hanging in the air, they left. I spent the next hour calming Emma down, assuring her that everything would be okay, even as my own mind raced with worry. Could Samantha really try to take the kids from me? Would a judge actually side with her after she had essentially abandoned them for years? The next morning, I received an email from Samantha formalizing her threat. She would be seeking primary custody of Emma and Noah and requesting increased child support payments unless I agreed to contribute to her stepchildren's camp fees and other expenses going forward. It was in that moment, staring at her email, with its coldly calculated demands, that I realized I could no longer avoid confrontation. For 3 years, I had accommodated Samantha's sporadic involvement in our children's lives, overlooked missed child support payments, and never complained when she canceled visits, all in an attempt to keep the peace and protect Emma and Noah from further trauma. But this was different. This was exploitation. And it was time to stand up, not just for myself, but for my children. That evening, after putting the kids to bed, I sat at my kitchen table and made a decision that would change everything. I had been keeping the peace at all costs, believing it was best for Emma and Noah. But Samantha's latest demands and threats made me realize that sometimes peace comes at too high a price. It was time to fight back. My first step was to contact Lisa Anderson, a family law attorney recommended by another father in my single-parent support group. She had a reputation for being tough but fair in custody and child support cases. I emailed her that night and was surprised to receive a response within hours, scheduling a consultation for the next day during my lunch break. Lisa's office was warm and inviting, not at all the cold, intimidating space I had imagined. She listened carefully as I explained the situation, occasionally taking notes. When I finished, she leaned forward with a determined expression. "Mr. Wilson, what you are describing is a clear attempt at financial exploitation and parental alienation," she said. "Your ex-wife cannot demand you support children that are not yours, and using your children as leverage is inappropriate and potentially harmful to them. She asked about my documentation, and I was relieved that my habit of keeping records proved useful. I had a spreadsheet of every child support payment Samantha had made or missed dates of every canceled visit and screenshots of social media posts showing their lifestyle contradicting claims of financial hardship. I also had the recent threatening email and text messages. "This is excellent," Lisa said, reviewing my records. "Based on what you have shown me, not only can we defend against any custody challenge, but we have grounds to petition for modification of the existing arrangement in your favor." We discussed options, and I decided on a two-pronged approach. First, we would file for enforcement of the existing child support order, including payment of all arrears. Second, we would petition for a formal revision of our custody agreement to reflect the reality that I had been the primary caretaker for years, with Samantha's involvement being inconsistent at best. Lisa warned me that things might get ugly. Samantha and Robert might escalate their threats or attempts to disrupt my life. She suggested documenting any further interactions and avoiding confrontations in front of the children. The next few weeks were tense. After Lisa sent a formal response to Samantha's email, rejecting her demands and outlining our intention to seek enforcement of child support obligations, the retaliation began. Robert indeed contacted my company, speaking to my manager about supposed personal issues affecting my work performance. Thankfully, my manager had known about my situation for years and recognized the call for what it was, an attempt at professional sabotage. Samantha began sending barrage of texts alternating between angry accusations and tearful pleas. She claimed I was being cruel, that I did not care about her happiness, that the children would hate me for creating conflict. I forwarded each message to Lisa without responding. The most difficult part was explaining to Emma why her weekend visit with her mother was canceled. Samantha claimed she was too upset to see the children due to my actions. I simply told Emma that Mommy was not feeling well this weekend, shielding her from the ugly truth. Our court date was set for 6 weeks after my initial consultation with Lisa. The night before, I barely slept. Despite Lisa's confidence in our case, I could not help worrying about what would happen. What if the judge sided with Samantha? What if her tears and accusations were more convincing than my spreadsheets and documentation? The family court was busier than I expected, filled with anxious parents and tired-looking children. Samantha and Robert arrived just minutes before our scheduled time, both dressed immaculately. Robert wore an expensive suit that seemed chosen to emphasize his status, while Samantha had opted for a conservative dress that made her look more maternal than I had seen her in years. They looked confident, exchanging smug glances as we were called into the courtroom. Their attorney, a sharply dressed older man with an intimidating demeanor, nodded reassuringly to them. My stomach tightened with anxiety, but Lisa squeezed my arm supportively. Judge Maria Hernandez presided over our case. She was a middle-aged woman with reading glasses perched on her nose and an expression that gave nothing away. She reviewed the files before her carefully before addressing us. The proceedings began with Samantha's attorney presenting their case, first painting a picture of me as an uncooperative co-parent who refused to support a blended family situation. He described Robert and Samantha as struggling financially while trying to provide equally for all 4 children, claiming that my refusal to contribute to their household expenses was creating inequality between siblings. When it was our turn, Lisa was methodical and precise. She presented the documented history of Samantha's minimal involvement in the children's lives, the pattern of missed child support payments, and the evidence contradicting their claims of financial hardship. She showed the judge social media posts of their luxury vacations, alongside bank statements showing missed support payments. Most damaging was the email where Samantha explicitly threatened to seek custody changes if I did not pay for her stepson's camp fees. Lisa argued that this constituted attempted extortion and demonstrated that Samantha's motivations were financial rather than the children's best interests. Judge Hernandez asked several pointed questions of both sides, her expression remaining neutral. When Robert attempted to interrupt with an explanation about his employment situation, she firmly reminded him to speak only when addressed directly. After all evidence was presented, Judge Hernandez called a 30-minute recess to review everything. Those were the longest 30 minutes of my life. I sat silently in the hallway, watching Samantha and Robert whisper intensely to their attorney, occasionally glancing in my direction. When we returned to the courtroom, Judge Hernandez delivered her ruling with clear disapproval in her voice. She denied Samantha's request for custody modification, finding no evidence that the current arrangement was not serving the children's best interests. She ordered Samantha to pay the full amount of back child support within 60 days and increased the monthly payment based on evidence of her actual household income rather than what she had been reporting. Most significantly, the judge added a stipulation that neither party could use custody or visitation as leverage in financial disputes, with severe consequences for any future attempts to do so. I cannot describe the relief that washed over me as the judge concluded. Samantha sat frozen in shock, while Robert's face darkened with anger. Their attorney looked genuinely surprised, suggesting they had been extremely confident in their position. As we left the courtroom, Lisa congratulated me quietly. "You stood up for your children today," she said. "That takes real courage." I caught a glimpse of Samantha and Robert in heated discussion with their attorney in the hallway. For the first time since she had left, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. I had been carrying the burden of keeping the peace at any cost, but now I realized that sometimes peace has to be fought for. 1 week later, I was making dinner when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I could see Samantha standing alone on my porch, looking nothing like the confident woman who had entered the courtroom. Her eyes were puffy from crying, her typically perfect appearance disheveled. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. Samantha immediately launched into a tearful explanation. Robert had lost his job 2 months ago, and they had been struggling financially. The house with the pool was mortgaged to the hilt, and they were behind on payments. Robert's ex-wife had reduced his visitation rights due to missed child support payments. They had hoped I would help ease their financial burden, seeing it as my turn to support Samantha after years of her supporting me through my career growth. "Jeremy, please," she sobbed. "I cannot come up with $12,000 in back child support. The judge does not understand our situation. Could you please drop the demand, or at least let me pay it over time?" The old me would have given in prioritizing peace over principle. But I had learned important lessons through this ordeal. "I will speak with Lisa about arranging a payment plan," I told her calmly, "but the payments will need to be made. Emma and Noah deserve that support." She seemed shocked by my firmness, having expected the same doormat she had walked over for years. When she tried to argue further, I simply repeated my position and gently ended the conversation. Over the following months, our new normal gradually established itself. Samantha adhered to the court-ordered payment plan for the back child support. Her visitations became more regular, perhaps motivated by the judge's warning about taking custody arrangements seriously. Robert eventually found new employment, though, at a lower salary than before, and their social media posts became noticeably less extravagant. As for me, I found a strength I had not known I possessed. The experience of standing up for myself and my children changed something fundamental in how I viewed myself and my role as a father. I was not just a provider and caretaker, but also a protector who could set and maintain healthy boundaries. Emma and Noah continued to thrive under the stability of our home life. Emma's issues at school gradually improved, and Noah's separation anxiety lessened. They enjoyed their visits with their mother, but always seemed happy to return home to our routines and the security we had built together. Through my support group, I met Allison, a single mother with a daughter around Emma's age. We started with playdates for the kids and slowly developed a friendship that eventually blossomed into something more. Unlike my relationship with Samantha, this connection was built on mutual respect and understanding of the challenges we both faced as single parents. Looking back on everything now, I realize that sometimes the most painful experiences lead to the greatest growth. Samantha's betrayal and subsequent demands could have broken me. Instead, they forged me into a stronger, more confident version of myself, someone who could stand firm in the face of manipulation and threats. I learned that setting boundaries is not selfish, but necessary, that compromise should not mean sacrifice, and that sometimes fighting back is the only way to find true peace. For those of you watching who might be facing similar challenges with an ex-partner who takes advantage of your good nature, remember that standing up for yourself is not just for your benefit but for your children's as well. They learn from watching how you allow others to treat you. By respecting yourself enough to set firm boundaries, you teach them to value themselves too. If my story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more real-life experiences and lessons learned the hard way. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to stand firm against unfair demands. Leave a comment, letting me know if you have ever had to set difficult boundaries with an ex, and how that worked out for you. Your story might help someone else who is struggling with similar issues. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the strongest thing you can say is simply no.